Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alison. I write as Sinclair, Juliet Bell and Alison May. I'm also an editor and creative writing tutor and creative writing lecturer at university level. And today I'm going to be delving into the world of YouTube Shorts, and we're going to be looking at some of the writing advice on offer there, and I'm just going to be reacting to that. So I haven't watched any of these videos in advance. We're going to have a watch. We're going to see what writing tips are out there. I'm going to react. I'm going to give you my take on those. Obviously, this is just my opinion, so take it with a pinch of salt. If there's writing advice here that I hate and it totally works for you, then that is all good. You do you. If there's stuff here that I love and you think just sounds completely wrong-headed, then that's fine. Doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Let's dive in though. So I have just searched here on YouTube for best writing advice, and let's have a little look at some of the shorts that come up.
So you may not be a successful author if you do these things. 1. Not having a consistent writing schedule. And this doesn't mean you sit down and write all day. This just means that you write, roughly 5 out of the 7 days a week. Expecting to write all day long. Like, have you ever heard of writing sprints? They're amazing. And what I love about these is I can get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. And I don't have these expectations that I got to be writing all day. 3. Having a really negative mindset about myself, about our writing. Saying that it's bad. Talking negatively about it. Making negative jokes about it. All that stuff seeps into your subconscious and it'll affect your writing.
Okay, so we've got 3 points here, and I agree with 2 out of 3 of them. So we started off by saying that
you may not be a successful author if you do these things. 1. Not having a consistent writing schedule.
Okay, so this is where I disagree. A consistent writing schedule, writing at least 5 days out of 7, she goes on to say. I mean, that's great. If your schedule works like that, awesome, that's brilliant. I write, or at least work on my book most days, usually 5 days out of 7 most weeks, but I have periods where I don't write at all, and I have weeks where I don't work on the book 5 days out of 7. I'm lucky if they work on the book 1 day out of 7. It doesn't mean you're not a writer. And different people's lives are different. It's going to depend what other work commitments you have, what family commitments you have, what else you have going on in your life. Also going to depend just how your brain works. I have quite a scattergun brain. One of my big challenges is always focusing, and I get bored really quickly. So when I set a schedule and go, okay, this is sustainable, I'm going to do this forever and ever and ever, inevitably I do it for about a fortnight, and then my brain goes, oh, shiny thing, and I wander off and do something else for a bit. That's fine. I've published 9 books. It's clearly working. It's okay. So I think that first tip, that you have to have a consistent writing schedule, no, you don't. If you can create one and it works for you, awesome, do that. If you can't and it doesn't, that's fine too. The second 2 points I absolutely agree with, though. It's really easy to fall into kind of negative narratives in our head about our writing and about ourselves as writers. So that can be things like saying, oh, I'm no good, this isn't good enough, there's no point trying. But it can also be setting limitations on how you write, like saying, well, if I can't write for a big long chunk of time, there's no point starting. Oh, I have to write like this, I can only write in these circumstances. No, put all of that out of your head. If your life requires you to write in 10-minute bursts twice a week, because that's how life is at the moment, write in 10-minute bursts twice a week, that's fine. If your life allows you whole days to write, great. It may be that your life allows you 1 whole day a fortnight to write, and that's all you're getting. That's fine too, but don't put mental limitations on it. Don't say, well, I only can if I have this big long hunk of time. So yeah, I like 66.6 recurring % agree with this writing advice. That's not a bad start.
Things I wish I knew before becoming a writer, part 2. So I used to believe that when I wrote my book, I had to make sure every sentence, every piece of dialogue was perfect. And what I realized is that editing as I went meant, for me at least, that draft was never going to get finished. It was only until I said screw it about being perfect and just wrote out my story that I got that first draft finished. It's more than okay to have your first draft suck. Where you get the goods is in the editing process, when you get to embellish that story through edits.
First drafts are allowed to be horrible. My first drafts are terrible, messy, incomprehensible things, and that's okay. And if yours are too, that's also okay. I'm a much, much better editor than I am writer. So for me, writing a first draft is just a question of getting something down on paper and getting it out of the way, which I can then edit. If you are someone who really, really dislikes editing, that process of sitting down with a manuscript that is just a mess and trying to work through it and kind of rebuild it into something good, then it might work better for you to edit more as you go along. But don't let that editing as you go along become a barrier to just finishing the draft. So yeah, I agree.
Well, you have to write a lot. You have to write almost constantly every day, and you have to read as much as you can. If there's one fault or one thing that I find disturbing about people who profess a desire to be writers of fiction, is that you'll hear them say, well, gee, I really don't have time to read. Well, that's crap. Everybody has time to read. If you carry a book with you, then sooner or later you probably will read it. You might be doing that instead of watching Seinfeld on TV, but that might not be such a bad thing. I sound like I'm scolding you. I'm really not. What I'm saying is that I think that practice makes perfect, and if you're going to be a writer, you have to write a lot, and you have to write a lot of fiction if you want to be a fiction writer.
So, obviously, we're not going to disagree too much with Stephen King because he's Stephen King, but I broadly agree with what he's saying here. If you want to be a writer, then I would suggest that yes, you need to write and you need to read. Both those things absolutely make sense. The more you write, the more practice you're getting, and the more you read, the more you are almost indirectly learning about the craft of what makes a novel or what makes a fiction story. I don't necessarily agree that you have to be writing constantly. There's a certain degree of, I hate to use the word privilege because it's become a bit of a buzzword, but different people's lives allow them to do different things. Your life may not allow you to write constantly. It may allow you to write occasionally, and if occasionally is the absolute most you can do, then write occasionally rather than writing never at all. I really love the tip about carrying a book with you. It's something that I actually started doing after reading On Writing by Stephen King, and it's something that I used to do like when I was much, much younger. I'd always have a book, and I'd kind of fallen out the habit, but now I pretty much always have a book with me, and it's surprising how much you can just read kind of incidentally through your day, particularly if you are going out to work, if you have a commute, or if you have the sort of job where you get breaks, or where you might have parts of your day where you are waiting, so that's waiting to pick the kids up, waiting for a bus, whatever it is. All those bits of time where you might kind of scroll your phone are reading time. So whether that's an e-reader app on your phone, whether that's a physical print book, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, eking reading time out of your day, I think, is a really good tip. We agree with Stephen on that. Should we do another?
How do you get better at writing dialogue? Well, good dialogue sounds natural. It sounds the way people actually talk. And people tend to talk indirectly as opposed to directly. Let me give you an example. Let's say we're doing a scene, we're sitting at a restaurant table, and I just finished my sandwich, and I say, I just finished my sandwich, I'm still hungry. Can I eat the rest of your sandwich? That's writing directly. That's telling you how I feel and what I want. No good. Here's a better way of doing this. You gonna finish that? So that's indirect dialogue. So I'm saying it without actually saying it, right? So you know what I want, but I'm not actually saying it, but you're still getting the meaning. Now, before you start hounding me on that, that's not great dialogue either, but it's an easy analogy for you to understand, okay? For more tips on becoming a better writer and how to break into Hollywood, you can...
So this is Michael Jimin. Apologies for probably getting your name completely wrong there. So this is tips on writing dialogue from the point of view of a screenwriter, but a lot of this does cross over into novel writing as well. And I agree absolutely that you're going to finish that in the context he's talking about is much stronger than doing full chapter and verse of description of I have finished my lunch, you are still eating your lunch, do you want the rest of your lunch? That's really clunky and it's not at all how people talk. However, in fiction, I find, and this is going to be different for different writers because it's going to depend what your natural instincts are, but I find that sometimes I have to make an effort to make my characters be slightly more direct than you might be in real life. And this might come down to personality as much as anything else. So if you are someone who is quite reserved, if you are someone who doesn't necessarily talk a lot about how you feel about something, you might find that you need to make your characters on occasion be a bit more direct because it might move your story forward more effectively if your characters come out and say the thing that is going to cause conflict than if they repress it and just think, oh, well, we'll deal with that later. Not always, but sometimes you really want to put the conflict, put the row, put the moment of tension, put the moment of change directly on the page. So sometimes you might want to push your characters to be a little bit more direct if you're dealing with a really big, knotty, emotional situation. Sometimes more direct wins. Sometimes. One more, I think.
Prepare for setbacks and know that that's okay. It's very common for writers who are writing their first novel to start really strong right out of the gate because they're excited and they're thinking, wow, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. And then a little ways into the book, it starts to get difficult, which is very natural. And then they kind of go, oh wait, writing a book is actually really hard, and then bail. This is a really common phenomenon. It happens to a ton of writers. Know that there will be setbacks. A novel is long, you know, if you're looking at 80,000 maybe more words. It's going to be difficult. There are going to be problems at some point. You're going to get stuck. You're going to lose motivation. It may get harder as you go. That's totally normal, and it doesn't mean that you're not a real writer or that this book can't be amazing. You just have to know that these setbacks are normal, brace yourself for them, and be ready to push through.
Yeah, I mean, yes, just yes, absolutely. Writing novels really hard. It's loads of words, like so many words, like just too many words, really. And yeah, there are going to be bits where you hate the book. There are going to be bits where you think everything you've written sucks. There are going to be bits where you have no idea what happens next. There are going to be bits where your fabulously thought out plan for what happens next suddenly makes no sense at all. Most people who start to write a novel will never finish a novel because of all of those issues and because life gets in the way and because it's a marathon, absolute marathon rather than a sprint. So yeah, prepare for setbacks, enjoy the golden bits, enjoy the bits where it flows, enjoy the bits where you're enjoying writing it, but accept that a lot of it won't feel like that, and that's okay. Yeah, so yeah, let's end on one where we have a absolute, hard agree. So that's today's video, my take on some of the writing advice that's out there on YouTube. Not bad overall, I thought. I was expecting some, shockers, but that was all good. We might try this again and see if we can find something really eyebrow-raising next time. In the meantime, though, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will be back next week. I have no idea what with. At the moment, I'm up against my deadline to get my book sent in. So it's Thursday today. This video will go live tomorrow on Friday. So it'll be Friday by the time you're seeing it. My book is due in on Monday. So really, I haven't really thought about what happens after Monday. It's a sort of, as yet undiscovered promised land out there. But I will be back next week with a brand new video. And for now, farewell.